Greetings, brothers. Good evening. How is everybody tonight? How are you all doing? I've been trying to make some new army lists this week. I assume you guys have been doing the same. It is more difficult than I expected, I feel like. I feel like I'm not there with mine yet, but I'm going to try something new. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to play Tau tomorrow. Good evening, Miguel, Reziel, Exo, Gamer Family, Will Cherry, Dutster, Andy, Ed. Good evening, everybody. Highland Phoenix is back. Highland Phoenix had been AWOL. Marines are all getting to ignore A1, AP-1. Highland Phoenix is seriously back now. He'll be back in every stream, I can tell. Theory crafting, making sure that we're the best that we can be. Do you know what? I'm not playing Andrew's Tau tomorrow, but I am playing another player's Tau. And Andrew sent me a list of his Tau. And basically, like, he's dropped all his indirect fire, and he has, like, I think it's 3 squads of crisis suits, probably the maximum you can have. They're like 350 points a squad, and he's kitted them all out with like the ion blasters, cyclonic ion blasters, and plasma rifles. So he's gone like so hard on large AP weapons, which I guess is good against Marines, but I think it's interesting because people are asking, like, are storm shields going to be useless? Well, I don't think so. I think storm shields are going to... I think Vanguard veterans with storm shields are still going to be useful for people that try and hard counter Marines, and then basically you fuck them by running a lot of storm shields. So I half thought, like, maybe I've wasted my time painting these 5 assault terminators, but I actually think I've not, because I think I'm going to try something different tomorrow, and I'm probably going to try something different next week. But after that, maybe I'm going to go back to something... Because I actually don't think my list that I've been running recently with Assault Terminators and all that is bad. Leviathan, Double Redemptor, and a bunch of Sanguinary Guard, says James Fisher. And Bo has just become a Battle Brother. Thank you so much for becoming a member. I really do appreciate it. Welcome to the channel. Please try and get into Discord and get into the members only room if you haven't done that before. Crisis will be spammed for sure, yep. Leviathan, Double Redemptor, and a bunch of Sanguinary Guard. That's what you're running now, is it, James? Kieran says 140 points for Mephiston. I'm going to be running Mephiston. I'm off the Firstborn Librarian with a jump pack. Yeah, I'm just off him. I think Null Zone is good against some armies, but I can't decide. I mean, I think he's a sacrificial lamb, and I'm just not really up for sacrificing my characters at the moment. Maybe I'll go back to him, but I'm not running enough high EP stuff, I feel like, to make it worth it. Kieran says a 5-man Death Company or 5-man Vanguard vets with hammers and shields will still delete crisis suits. It's very true, yeah. Sanguinary Guard will probably delete crisis suits as well if they get in combat. I'm indifferent on the Death Company blob. So I'm not going to run Death Company this week. Stephen, thank you so much for becoming a member as well. I really do appreciate it. Welcome at Battle Brother as well. Cool. I think that you've made me lose train of thought, you guys with memberships, and that's fine. I think that I'm going to try the Sanguinary Ancient this week, and I guess you guys know that I typically haven't run the Sanguinary Ancient in the longest time. I used to run them all the time in previous editions. I used to run them all the time with the Standard of Sacrifice, and I used to ignore the Wrath of Baal. But I'm going to run them with Wrath of Baal this week, just because I want to see how survivable Sanguinary Guard actually are. So 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard with Wrath of Baal. I'll have some Vanguard veterans in the list as well, but I just want to try that and see how I feel that goes. I also want to try Death Company, but I think chain swords are going to be weak, and I think hammers are going to be quite weak into other Marine armies. So I want to run a Death Company into a Marine army, but I guess I'm going to practice it probably into another army, and then maybe I'm going to go back to the list that I ran a few weeks ago, which I liked the list that I ran a few weeks ago with like Eliminators, Eradicators, 1 Relic Contemptor is my Dreadnoughts, and that is my fire support, and then like Terminators, Sanguinary Guard, Vanguard Veterans, and I feel like there was one other unit. There's Was there not another combat unit? Maybe there wasn't. Yeah, something like that. I love 5-man Death Company, 2 hammers, 3 chainswords. You know what? The last couple of painting streams I've been painting up, so I would have 3 hammers. I do kind of want to try 5 hammers as well to see if they're survivable. But I think if you go into the 3, I think if you go on to heavy on, I think if you want to Forlorn Fury the Death Company, you need to have the Sanguinary Priest. What's the AP on Infernal Pistols? It's -4, and I guess it's -5 when you get to Assault Doctrine. Eliminators, so you might see a bit more play, less lethal indirect fire, great save and cover, move, shoot, move, bodyguard roll tweaked, and they're not overcosted anymore. Yeah, Eliminators might see some more play, and I think Eliminators, I guess the question is, can Eliminators survive against Tau with indirect fire spam? Or any other army that's doing indirect fire spam? Because the thing that Tau have is they can negate the cover bonus, right, with target lock. So, what are you ZZZing at Highland Phoenix? Okay. I have 2 squads of Eliminators, one with snipers, one with las fusils. I like both, but I think... Yeah, I can't decide. I think my main problem is that I want to still run a balanced list. And I have built a few lists that are all jump pack heavy, but I think there's still lists out there that are going to counter us pretty heavy if we go full melee. So, yeah, I'll share my list at the very end of today's stream. Anyway, we're going to get into today's stream, and the lists we've got submitted by the community today are by Rezio, by Dirty Wizard, and by Brew and Biscuits. Next week, we've got 3 lists submitted by Dan R, Highland Phoenix, and Antonio's Garden. Cool. Okay, so, and we're going to start with Rezio today because I saw he was in the chat. I think our other member, Dirty Wizard, is in the chat too, but it's fine. Let's start up with Rezio, and let me just open Wikipedia in case something comes up that I do not remember off the top of my head. I love Wikipedia. Cool. Okay. Alright, John, I got a list for you. Originally wrote a completely different version of this in April the 1st, but that was built around 30 Assault Intercessors, rewritten just after the balance update. Yeah, I mean, I'm off Assault Intercessors. If you run them into other Marines now, that's going to generally be pretty horrible. Or even into Death Guard, or any of the ones that got to ignore EP -1. Okay, I haven't submitted a list for plenty of reasons for a little while. A big one is I feel Blood Angels lists are extremely similar for good reason. And what would I add? But these days, I am strong in my conviction that 40k is what you make it. Something to be a thing that you can do but not taken too seriously if you have a bad time. That is my daughter up. I will be back in literally 30 seconds. Okay. Where was I? Because of all the recent issues from Marine players in general, it's definitely true that there was a dark cloud hanging over all of us. With enthusiasm picking back up, I retooled this to be a bit more serious. I honestly don't know how it's going to play into everything, and it's not such an original build. Definitely a lot of the old staples, but now I think it will be interesting to see what performs where. I have no idea what's performing where. That's why I'm struggling to write lists myself, so today's stream might be a little bit different. There's, of course, a Calidus Assassin, because not only does she have good stats and ability, she plays a CP game with the opponent. I mean, she can do. I love distracting my opponents and inviting them to make more mistakes. Every unit in the list will probably have some weaknesses, but we can discuss that. Several of them are things I'm wanting to test out. See what you think, and of course make some recommendations. Okay, Battalion 9 CP, 1966 points. Yeah, I guess we start with the Calidus Assassin, which you can obviously switch out before the battle for 2 CP for any of the other assassins. That's fine. Astaroth. I guess Astaroth got a little bit better. Ignore -1 AP. Like everything in our listed. Sanguinary Priest also got a little bit better. Chief Apothecary, Selfless Healer, Teeth of Terra. Assault Intercessors, Sergeant has a Power Sword, and then 2 squads of Incursors. 10-man Death Company, is it? Is this how much? I actually don't know how much points of 10-man Death Company. 10-man Death Company with 4 hammers. A Relic Dreadnought with a Cyclone and 2 Twin Volkite Coverings. I don't like this. I don't like it because it can get stuck in combat. I guess you can try and keep it at long range or 36 inches away, but I think one of the strengths of Blood Angel's Dreadnoughts is their combat, and this one obviously has no combat. I mean, I ran these at a tournament, Reziel, and I didn't like it. I actually got charged a couple of times by like 5-man Tempest Scion squads with the purpose of just the enemy trying to bog me down, so I couldn't pick the targets that I wanted to get to, or I couldn't walk onto objectives. And I guess in close combat, you basically get, what is it, like 5 attacks with no AP. So you're not killing anything in combat. And yeah, I mean, that's why I don't like this much now. Like I said, I run it to a tournament. I don't think I would run it again. I mean, I'm tempted to run it, but I just don't think I would. We then have the Relic Terminators with the Lightning Claw and Combi Bolters. Plasma Blaster and Sergeant. Grenade Harness. I forget what the Grenade Harness does on the Relic Terminators, because I don't actually own any Relic Terminators. I was planning on getting some. Grenade Harness is just what? Assault D6. 4 -1 blast. Okay. Alright. Nothing that special. The Sanguinary Ancient with the Wrath of Baal. Okay. 8 Sanguinary Guard, 4 swords, 4 axes. I do like the mix. I think mix is going to be the strongest now, because you don't know what you're going to run into. Land Speeder for 70 points, and the Whirlwind for 120, and then the Land Speeder Storm for 55. Nothing will be inside the Storm, I guess. Okay. Death Company are 22 points each. Yes, 22 points each now, I guess, with a jump pack and a bolt or chain sword, and then I guess 60 more points on the Thunderhammers. Is this right? Points cost then? Or Death Company 22 with a jump pack, or is it 21? I don't think this will have been updated. Oh, maybe. Oh, maybe it's right. Yeah, maybe it's right. Okay. James says, I'd like to see the return of the Super Heavy at some point on your channel. I was thinking that my Super Heavy is okay, but I actually think an Astreus is really good now. Like, if you compare the Falchion against the Astreus, James, the actual damage output is very similar. I did the comparison a few days or weeks ago, because I've been thinking about buying an Astreus for a while, just because I think it's a cool model and I don't have one. And the Falchion and the Astreus damage output is very similar. But the Astreus has got 4 more wounds, and I believe the Astreus can fly. I think that would be one of the things that I would really like about it as well. I haven't actually checked, but I'm sure it would have the fly keyword. Yeah, okay, so it can fly, so it's much easier to maneuver around on the table. And it's also got the Void Shields, which essentially give it like 6 regenning wounds as well, and it's got more wounds base as well. So I think, as much as I like my Falchion, I think the Strauss is better as it stands right now. And also, you don't have to pay CP to include it. It doesn't have Martial Legacy. So if you want to spend, like, Forge World, if you want to spend like 200 points on a 200 points, I guess £200 on a tank, maybe even more. How much is it? £254. Yeah, if you want to spend £254 on a tank, I think it's a good choice right now. And I would equip it with the Plasma Eradicators over the Las Rippers, just because I hate D6 damage and I kind of like the fact that it can just do flat 3 with the plasmas. Okay. The Strauss in my shopping cart just before I bought a house, so it's delayed until next year. That's fair enough, James. Okay, so troop-wise, I've got no complaints. Elite-wise, you've got the Ancient and, like, 18 jump pack models. So you need to have a good amount of jump pack units to make the Ancient worth it. 18 seems like an okay number. Sanguinary Guard, I can't tell you how good or how big a squad you need of Sanguinary Guard right now. I kind of think 7 might be good now with the improvements to their survivability, but I guess we'll see. Good evening, Steel Rain. How you doing? The points were not wrong. It just took me a little minute to get round it. Bo says he can't see the Whirlwind being viable anymore. Bo, you need to think of the Whirlwind as not a damaging unit. Forget that it can do any damage at all. And think of it this way. The Whirlwind is going to sit on your backfield objective for the entire game, right? So it's going to hold one objective for you for 4 turns. You're going to try and hide it as best you can. Ideally, the enemy will never see it. It will just sit there and be obscured for the entire game. If it can do that, it scores you 16 victory points straight away, right? Then the other thing that you want to do with it is you just want to suppress key enemy units. You turn off their Overwatch, you stop them fighting you first. So if they charge you, they're fighting last. So basically, like, if you know, let's say next turn the enemy is going to charge your Sanguinary Guard with their hardest hitting unit of infantry, then you just suppress them. And for the Whirlwind with the cheap loadout, because you want to take the cheap loadout, you want the 2d6 shots. You'll roll your 2d6. On 2d6, the average is 7. Out of those 7, you need to make a single hit roll. So single 4+, because ideally the Whirlwind won't see the enemy, so it'll be -1 to hit. And then they have to fight you last. So they charge, your Sanguinary Guard or whatever, and you're fighting them first. That's huge. Don't think of the Whirlwind. Like, the reason you can't even think about the Whirlwind as a damaging unit is you've got to suppress the model that's going to charge you and kill you, right? So at that point, sometimes the model might be like, I don't know, it could be a knight, for example. Well, you're never going to do any damage to a knight with a Whirlwind anyway, so just don't think of the Whirlwind as a damaging unit. If you think of it that way, then you'll be fine. The only time it will do damage is at the end of the game if you're winning the game and it can come out and it can do some line of sight fire, I guess. And I don't know if I have screenshots from a tournament that I did a while ago, but I had a game against Admech actually where my Whirlwind was like running around and stealing objectives and doing all sorts of shenanigans. So, okay, Sanguinary Ancient with Wrath of Baal for 18 jump back units seems about as low as you can go. I wouldn't have much less than 18 jump units or jump troops with the Sanguinary Ancient. Terminators with Lightning Claws and Combi Bolters seem good. Obviously, they can deep strike. The Relic Contemptor overall is fine. I just don't really like these guys as weapon platforms. I guess if it's your only weapon platform and you plan on hanging back the whole game, that can be fine. But I also think that can be a bit of a trap because you end up hanging back. Yes, you have this Relic Contemptor alive, but it's not actually scoring you points and getting on objectives and doing the stuff that Dreadnoughts normally can do, and that's something to be aware of. And it is tough, right? Because, like, I made a list quite similar to this earlier today, actually, with Terminators, with, like, Sanguinary Guard, with the Sanguinary Ancient. I'll show you at the end of the stream. With a Landspeeder, with a Whirlwind, like, I all these things with exact same troop choices. And I think that there's a want when this is your only fire support to want to lean into this, but I just think it's much better to have a fist on here. Just my opinion. Good evening, Gitley. How you doing? You're prepared to die on the hill of what? That you like the Whirlwind or that you hate the Whirlwind? We then have the 3 HQs, I guess, are Astaroth, the Calidus Assassin, the Sanguinary Priest, and I guess it doesn't show it here, but the Astaroth will also have the Massive Doom as another litany, as a possible option. Okay. And Astaroth can do a good bit of damage with Mantra of Strength up. Landspeeder Storm, I guess, is just here to try and help score engage on all fronts or something of that nature. You hate the Whirlwind? I mean, why? What do you not like about it? The Landspeeder Storm, yeah, probably just engage on all fronts, or I guess it could come on and do Relentless Assault or something like that. Some people are saying Astaroth now has his time to shine. I still think he's very expensive at 150 points. Like, very, very expensive. I was making lists today, and I think that if I wanted a character that would do a lot of damage, I'd probably rather just run like a captain with a Thunderhammer. He'd be cheaper. And yeah, maybe he does a little bit less damage than Astaroth, but I think he'd have the same number of wounds, right? Astaroth just has 5 wounds, does he? Or is he 4? I actually don't remember. 5 wounds, yeah. So same as the captain, right? Yeah. So a captain with a jump back is 110, give him a Thunderhammer for like 130. The captain doesn't need a Storm Shield anymore, I guess, really. So, yeah. I mean, I guess it depends if you're okay with litanies being unreliable, because that's what they are. On Astaroth, they're unreliable because he can't be the wise orator, I guess, right? I know some of you guys love Astaroth. Strength 6, minus 3 damage. Yeah. I mean, you could give a captain the Hammer of Baal, and then your Strength 8, minus 3 damage. I guess with his Mantra of Strength, it becomes Strength 7, minus 4 damage potentially, but yeah. I just think I still think he's overcosted at 150 points. I still think Dante's overcosted at 165 points. The datasheet came out and Trajan Valoris stayed at 165 points, right? That's what Valoris costs. I don't know how they even with the changes to Custodes, and I know that in the Custodes. Oh shit, he's cheaper than Dante? Okay, that's even worse. I know that in the Custodes Discord they're moaning and stuff, but like, this guy's not cheaper than Dante in points. Like, what the fuck? He has a 3 damage weapon, he has 8 wounds, he's a 5-up, feel no pain. He gives you 2 command points, he's got 2 warlord traits, he can heroically intervene 6, he can also interrupt for free. Once per game, he can just change incoming damage to 0. He can fight first. I mean, how is he cheaper than Dante? I do not know. So yeah, Astaroth at 150 still feels expensive to me. I get that he's stronger, but he does feel expensive. Good evening, Oddsod. How you doing? The Calidus Assassin for me, I guess, is fine. Her sword that goes through invulnerable saves, is that going to be that useful against other Marine players now? Because her sword that goes through invulnerable saves like only minus 3 or something, right? Yeah, minus 3 on the phase sword. So like, if you were going to go and hit like because typically I think the assassin is good at like assassinating. She's good at assassinating toughness 4 characters. So if you're running her into a toughness 4 Marine character or something, she gets 5 attacks, so she hits on 2, so she makes 4 or 5 hits. She wounds on 4s, so she makes 2 or 3 wounds, and then the minus 3 really against Marines becomes minus 2, So I actually don't know if she's... I don't really know if she's a viable... Like, I've always seen her as, like, she can kill, like, toughness 4 characters with a 4-up invulnerable save pretty effectively. Well, does she do that anymore? Give me 1 second. I have to turn a baby monitor off. Alright. So the Calidus is just there to annoy people with CP. Okay. Everything else is additional. Yeah, I mean, I guess 100 points to maybe cost the enemy like 1 CP if they're wise to it. They just don't play any CP at the beginning of the battle, which it arguably nullifies her. You could play turn 1 pretty passively. I'm not sure. I've never seen a huge need for a Calidus. But I mean, it is to yourself. The Sanguinary Priest with the jump pack, Selfless Healer, and the Teeth of Terra. Okay. Obviously, we want to get the Death Company into Assault Doctrine in turn 1, and we want to do some smashing with there, and we want to potentially give them some litanies. And give them +1 to hit for the Sanguinary Ancient. I'm curious to know... Thunderhammers hit on 3s, -1, so you can make all your Marines hit on 2s if you cast... You can make your Death Company Thunderhammers hit on 2s. Is that better than hit on 3s, re-rolling everything? It's not, actually. So the math... If you hit on 2s, right? Because you get +1 to hit from the Sanguinary Ancient, you get +1 to hit from Massive Doom. So you get 5 divided by 6. So that's your chance to hit, 83%. If you, let's say, gave +1 to hit with the Sanguinary Ancient and gave them Chapter Master rerolls, which is almost very similar. You can make a Chapter Master for under 150 points. Then you would hit on 3s rerolling 1s. And when you hit on 3s, it's a 66% chance. No, actually, hit on 3s rerolling everything. It would be a 66% chance plus 66% of the remaining 33, which is 22. So you actually get an 88% chance to hit. So if you're running Astaroth to hopefully give Massive Doom to the Death Company, and you're running the Sanguinary Ancient to give them +1, so you're basically giving them +2, you'd actually have more reliability if you were running a Chapter Master in the Sanguinary Ancient. So that's something to consider as well, I guess. I think because I made a list this week to run a Forlorn Fury Death Company with the Sanguinary Priest and get them +1 to hit and do all the rerolls and stuff. So I think if I'm doing it, if it was my choice, if I was doing it my way, I'd use the Chapter Master rerolls. Eliminator Squad with Quake Bolts is super durable with Armor of Contempt. Yes, they are. Quake Bolts was always a good choice. I no longer trust reroll mechanics. Too many things to remove them, says Reziel. Okay. I mean, I guess there is some things that remove rerolls. I wouldn't say there's too many things to remove rerolls. There's some. I run the Hammer Death Company with Chapter Master, Ancient, and Priest is baller, says Gitley. And I missed your comment on the Whirlwind. Why do you not like it, Gitley? You're just not gonna remove Vanguard Veterans for it. Well, I mean, I guess that's a tactical choice you have to give. So what's gonna happen when, let's say, the enemy are gonna charge you with their most strong unit? You just have to take it. And that's what I don't like about not having the Whirlwind. If I know that the enemy's gonna charge me, I don't know, let's say they've got a squad of 10 Deathwing Terminators. If I know they're gonna charge me next turn with the 10 Deathwing Terminators, I'd really rather fight before they fight me. And that goes for multiple things, like, for example, the Nightbringer. You know, like, I've played against the Nightbringer where, like, the only way you kill the Nightbringer, really, is if you can do good damage to him in the enemy's phase. or the enemy's turn, or multiple phases, because he only can take 3 wounds per phase. So making the Nightbringer, for example, fight last, so when he charges something, you can do those super critical 3 wounds per phase, and then he's easy to kill in your turn, right? Because you can do 3 wounds in shooting, 3 wounds in close combat, and he's dead, right? And that's why I like the Whirlwind. I feel like I can't drop it. I think it's too important against certain matchups. Okay, yeah. The Judiciar can do it, but it's much more difficult to have him in the right position on the battlefield than the Whirlwind, who has a 72-inch range, right, Miguel? Literally, the Whirlwind can sit in one corner of the battlefield and shoot everywhere else in the entire battlefield. So, alright, so you've taken Astaroth and Sanguinary Ancient to give you that +2 to hit. You've got the Death Company, which I guess you can play Refusal to Die on. You get the Sanguinary Priest to get them Assault Doctrine. You get the Calidus Assassin. You want to fuck with the opponent's CP, I get that. I would rather have, like, Unleash Rage on the Death Company. And or Shield of Sanguinius, right? You can cast 2 powers on them. I would do both. I think you're spending 280 points plus a bunch of other shit. Like, you've literally taken Astaroth to make this Death Company better. You've taken the Sanguinary Ancient to make them better. I would I'd go all in on that at that point. And lose a Calidus Assassin and take I'd just take a Librarian that can cast 2 powers on the Death Company. Unleash Rage doesn't need line of sight. I actually don't know if Shield of Sanguinius needs line of sight, does it? I think Shield of Sanguinius does. I don't know. It doesn't need line of sight either. It's like one friendly unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Alright, so yeah, Shield of Sanguinius doesn't need line of sight. Unleash Rage doesn't need line of sight. Just slightly less range on Astaroth is absurdly cheap for what he brings. He does things that you have to take CP to do elsewhere. Big question is how many points is a CP worth? That is a big question. Steel Rain, thank you so much for the $5. You think it's just massive doom that Astaroth brings for that turn 1 Death Company that gives him the edge over all the others, I guess, right? Also, you're going for BS4, no line of sight shooting. It's not ideal. If you roll low shots, you're going to invest even more for a CP reroll. Well, that's the danger, Gitley. Yeah, and I mean, that is the danger. But if you're playing against a combat-heavy army that doesn't have a lot of shooting, then maybe your Whirlwind can poke its nose out and still hit on 3s. Remember, if you run a Land Speeder, and the Land Speeder's within 18 inches of the target you want to shoot, you get +1 with the Whirlwind. So there is ways of having that Whirlwind to be a bit more reliable. And yeah, I mean, I've won games alone because of the Whirlwind. I've literally won the game because the opponent couldn't charge me with their strongest units. I mean, they could have charged me, but they're just going to get deleted by the unit they charge into, right? So then, in that point, they can't charge me. So, I've had a game, I think, where I literally spent all my CB on suppression fire. Every turn, I just suppressed, I think it was like, there was Demaricarans for the Tyranids. So it was just like, yes, you have a nasty creature that's super met. Do you know what? I actually haven't read the new Tyranids Codex, but I bet it's batshit crazy. But how do you even say these things? I must be like one. I played against Andrew when he had 2 of these. What are they called? I was close. Dimarcheons? I don't have a fucking clue how you say the name of these things, but they're like, what is it, like 6 attacks. They either can do Strength 8, -3, D3 +3. Each attack you can reroll the hits, or they do Southing Tail. Oh no, it makes 1 additional attack with this weapon and no more. Alright, so it gets 7 attacks, all at -3. 6 of them are D3 +3. 1 of them's 2 damage, and then if it kills stuff, it's got some batshit crazy rule. Where is it? After this model made close combat attacks, that model Select one enemy model with an engagement route. This model's player rolls a d6 and adjusts their model's strength characteristic. If the strength is equal or less to this model's strength characteristic, the model suffers d6 mortal wounds. So, hold on a second, I will get to your super chat, sorry. Adds their model strength characteristic if it's equal to or less than this model's strength characteristic. So, your strength 4, or toughness 4, but it's actually your strength. So, your strength 4, and you roll a d6, and if it's equal or less than strength 7, you take d6 mortal wounds. So, like, if this thing charges you, I mean, Sanguinary Guard are better, but they weren't before, so now they would be saving on 4s. So basically, this thing kills 3 Sanguinary Guard, and then has a 50-50 chance of doing, like, 3 more mortal wounds. But before the nerf, or before we got +1 to wound, this thing kills, like, 4 or 5 Sanguinary Guard, and then kills, like, another 2 with the mortal wounds. So, like, when I played Andrew, I just stopped these things charging me for the entire game. Because I feel like a Sanguinary Guard can kill the squad of Sanguinary Guard can kill them if they charge me. Or maybe I can't kill them, but I can do 10 to 15 wounds to him, and he wasn't willing to give up 10 to 15 wounds. He was wanting an opportunity to charge, and I was just like, no, you can't fucking charge me because of the Whirlwind. Yeah. $5 from Reziel. One of the classic weaknesses of Blood Angels is being all direct and having very true tricks. Predictable. Calidus brings a valid mind game to her kit. Yeah, I mean, I guess it gives you some backfield harassment as well. Dimaceron, I think is how you say it. Dimicarion is how Gitley's saying you say it. The new Tyranids Codex has more psychic capability than Grey Knight, says Joe. I don't know, and I honestly don't know what these Dimicarons, I don't know what their new profile looks like, but I know when I was facing them, I was like, my god, if these things get into combat, they're killing half my army dead easy. Okay, there was a Blood Angels list that won a GT like a few weeks ago, with no Whirlwind. No, the one that won the tournament had a Whirlwind, because I've got a video on that ready to come out, Anton. It had a squad of Devastators and it had the Whirlwind. That was its only 2 heavy supports. Okay. Some people are not about the Whirlwind life. Yeah, I mean, I feel like our 90% of our damage, and I'd say 90% of our damage comes from close combat. So our stuff needs to be able to survive in close combat to kill stuff. And I think that's the biggest weakness we've had up until now, before we got this new Armour of Contempt rule. So I think that G Shelley, thank you so much for subscribing. I think that the change here to give her more survivability is great, and I also think having a Whirlwind is great. And bear in mind, I just throwing that out there, I almost won a GT with a Whirlwind in my list, and a lot of those games, I'd say multiple games, the Whirlwind was the MVP, and like half the time it just hid. And yes, it never did any damage in any of the games. I mean, even against the Imperial Guard, it did no damage. It wasn't there to do damage. And also, what do you do if you're playing Tau, and you don't have a Whirlwind? Like, I guess you need suppressors? Like, I was speaking to Andrew today. Let me read you this. Yeah, let me read you this. Oh my god, they've sent so many bullshit messages. Hold on. Right. Andrew's list, he's got 3 squads of Crisis Battlesuits now. They're all 384 points. Sorry, 348 points. Each squad has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Crisis Battlesuits. Each battlesuit has Cyclonic Ion Blasters and 2 Plasma Rifles. Yep. Every squad is like that. So if you charge them, and I don't play Tau all that much, so I So each squad has 5 crisis suits, and each squad has each model has 2 plasmas and an ion blaster. So if you charge them, then he's got 15 shots, strength 8 minus 2 damage, and then 10 shots, strength 8 minus 4 3 damage. So every single shot is killing Marine. He's got 15 and he's got 10. And he can overwatch on 5s, right? So on average, he's hitting a Marine army. He's got 25 shots. So even on 5s, bear in mind these guys are core as well, so he can probably reroll his 1s. So he's probably making about 10 hits at strength 8. And for every failed save, it's a dead model. So yeah, I mean, when I did it, I actually charged a squad of these Crisis Battlesuits with 7 Sanguinary Guard, and 5 of them died. And yeah, I mean, I guess things have changed a little bit since then, but 7 Sanguinary Guard to lose 5 of them on Overwatch is fucking crazy. Like, how you think you can win the game doing that, or... I don't know. I mean, I guess you could run suppressors to turn off the Overwatch. If you're a Blood Angels player and don't understand why the Wrath of Baal is awesome, I mean, do you even like combat? Who's debating the Wrath of Baal? I didn't see anyone debate the Wrath of Baal. Okay. Alright. He's only 6s and you can charge out of line of sight. Yeah, I mean, you can charge out of line of sight, but he's got 3 units. And it's not always the easiest to get your whole unit out of line of sight, is it, right? I mean, that'd be up to him positioning them badly, I guess, if you can charge them out of line of sight. Highland is bugging me on the Ancient. I'm running an Ancient tomorrow against Tau. With the Wrath of Baal. So, I preferred it when you had the standard sacrifice, but that is an option now. So, okay. Let's talk about some scoring on this list. We're getting sidetracked by a million comments in the chat, and I do appreciate all the comments in the chat. Obsec Holding, we got about 8.5, 2 squads of Incursors, anti-horde infantry. Got a little bit of firepower from the Sanguinary Guard, and the Relic Contemptor. So, a little bit of anti-infantry firepower. I mean, I guess the Land Speeder Storm, maybe the Combi Bolters on the Terminators. I guess it depends on what turn you bring them down on. We'll give you an 8. Maybe it needs to be a 7.5, but we'll give you an 8. Anti-monster Vero. What we got 3 damage weapon-wise in his? We got 1 multi-melta. We've got the Cyclone Missile Launcher, the 4 hammers here, an Astaroth, and that's it. So 7 3 damage weapons. I think that's it. Yeah, okay, 7 3 damage weapons, so I'm not in love with that. I think when I was building my list earlier today, I think I got to like 12 or 14 3 damage weapons, and I wasn't in love with that. The game tomorrow is going to be at a different time. It's going to be earlier in the day. But I will have a game against Tau tomorrow. I'm going to set the stream up after we finish here. You're debating the points on the Ancient? Yeah, I mean, everyone preferred the Ancient when he was 85 points. You could run multiple of them when he was 85 points. I guess you can't now, he's 110. Okay. So maybe like a 9? For damage for monster killing, and yeah, I mean, you might struggle against the likes of Death Guard with this. Depends what the Death Guard player runs, I suppose, now, but Thunderhammers are going to be pretty weak into Death Guard as well. I mean, that's going to be a whole other problem for us, in the fact that like Thunderhammer is essentially going to be minus. If we're not an Assault Doctrine, they're just going to be -1 against Death Guard, which is going to be rough. Mobility wise, seems pretty good. The Relic Contemptor doesn't need to be mobile, and the Terminators, I suppose, can arrive from Deep Strike. So mobility, I think we're going to go with 8.5, and then specialization. So we do have the ability to turn off Overwatch and Fight Last. We don't have any denies. I think we're okay for units for actions. We're probably a bit shy on 3 damage weapons. CP-wise, I think it was 9, was it? Yeah, so CP-wise is great. And you also have Soul Warden on Astroth, and you've got a Priest as well. So probably just a point off for no denies. Lack of 3 damage weapons. Something like 8.5, I think. Yeah. Bolters aren't killing much, and plasmas cost too much. Keep in mind I went for mortal wound output with the Contemptor. Yeah, I mean, the problem with the Contemptor, I guess, is it's so swingy, right? And, yeah, I mean, it'll swing from, like, 0 mortal wounds up to 5 mortal wounds. So, I mean, it is nice it's got 72-inch range, I guess. Or, sorry, 45-inch range on those Volkites. I'm kind of off them. An Ancient with Rights of War and Wrath of Baal is crazy good, but also super expensive. It is. It is. I did consider putting Rights of War in my Ancient when I was looking at it earlier today. I mean, when you've got 9 CP here, Reziel, I would possibly be tempted to... I possibly would be tempted to Rights of War this Ancient. Because 9 CP seems like a lot. The other thing I guess you could do is maybe like Mastercraft, the Relic Blades, the Relic Terminator's Lightning Claw, but I mean, I don't know if it helps you that much again into Tower, and into Death Guard, which I think is Death Guard or Custodes. I saw Custodes won a tournament today, was it? Just because he went like heavy on the Dreadnoughts. I saw it on one of the Facebook groups I'm on. So Custodes running a lot of Dreadnoughts, -1 damage across all the Dreadnoughts, obviously 6-up shrugs on all the Dreadnoughts as well with the Custodes. So yeah, I guess Custodes -1 damage is going to be a problem still as well. We may actually see more Custode Dreadnought lists now with the changes to the Terminators and stuff, making them worse. My Contemptor was like a bomb magnet. My mate's Elder go right for it. Yeah, if you only have 1 Dreadnought, it can be a little bit of a bullet magnet, I find, as well. You're going to spend 3 or 4 CP on the Death Company in the first turn. Yeah. I feel like an Unleash Rage on the Death Company with the number of attacks you get here. What do you get? You get 6 attacks per chainsword, so 6, 12, 18, 24, 36. Yeah, you get 36 chainsword attacks, and what you get, like 4, 20 Thunderhammer attacks. I feel like Unleash Rage on that is lots of value. I prefer that over the Calidus Assassin, potentially making the opponent spend 1 CP or something like that. If you're spending that much CP on the Death Company in turn 1, can you even afford to keep the Calidus, the stratagem that keeps him off the board for an extra turn? I think that costs like 2 CP, right? Supreme Deception. Use the stratagem at the start of any battle round after the first. Yeah, this model's Reign of Confusion ability. Like, can you even afford to play Reign of Confusion or Supreme Deception after turn 1? I'd rather just go heavy on buffing the Death Company. I like the Volkite. I like the Volkite too. And I went to GT and ran 2 Contemptors with double Volkites. And like I said, in some games they were brilliant, and in other games they did no mortal wounds. And if they're not spitting out mortal wounds, they're not doing damage. Because if you run the Contemptor into like anything with toughness 6 or more, you're not getting many wounds, they're not needing to make many saves, so sometimes I've seen the Contemptors be totally inefficient or ineffectual. That's why I don't like running them as gun platforms. And I did do it, but I think the big takeaway I took from that tournament was like, you're relying 100% on sixes when you're shooting at it. And if you don't get like 5 sixes, it just doesn't do any damage against certain things, and that was the thing that kind of wanted me to ditch it. Okay. It's going to be super subjective for now, though, because obviously we're going to have to play a few games. We're going to have to play a few games to figure out what the hell actually has changed. What's strong, what's not. You ever reroll everything but sixes on the Contemptor to maximize the mortals? I mean, there's no way to reroll that many on the wounds, right? You can only reroll on the... You can only reroll ones on the wound rolls, Lawrence. Mortal wounds are extremely important to have access to. They are, but I think you can do that with one... I think you do that with one arm on the Contemptor. So I think you have the Volkite on one arm and you have a Chain Fist on the other arm or something like that. I'd rather give my big, expensive elites or characters obsec with rights for 1 measly CP. Yeah, I mean... Sometimes you've got to wonder if one model stays alive and obsecs a unit from the other person, it can win the game, right? It depends on how much obsec they have. You can use Wisdom of the Ancient, by the way. I know you can, and I guess... Yeah. My experience with Contemptors is you need to be re-rolling all the hits, and you really need to be re-rolling your ones on the wounds, and even then, sometimes you'll turn up 0 mortal wounds. And I guess I don't like spending that much of a commitment into something that potentially gives 0 mortals. You know, like other factions have pretty reliable strats where they can play them and do like multiple mortal wounds. So I just don't think Contemptors are reliable mortal wound generation. Yeah, but that's just my opinion. Okay, we're looking at Dirty Wizard Shield of Baal. High Blood Aegis Commander, here's a list I've created around my Terrax Drill. My plan is to have the unit smart Terrax to ride inside and deploy turn 2. I chose not to include a Whirlwind, fair enough. I plan on utilising the 3-inch bodyguard bubble on my company veterans, allowing 2 to 3 characters to charge at multiple enemy units in range and cannot be targeted by ranged weaponry, including Overwatch, by the Xenos or Tau Scum. I mean, that's valid as well. Locking them into combat and giving other units a chance to pile in, possibly risky but effective. I would also like your advice on what secondaries is best suited to this melee force. 6 CP, 1997 points. Standard sort of rules there. Okay. The Contemptors are better than the Redemptors in single. If it's a test, it underperforms multiple times, I'll drop it. Yeah, I mean, I'd say that as well. If you're running the Tech Marine, I guess the Redemptors are better. But then I think if you're going Tech Marine, you probably want multiple Dreadnoughts. If you're going a single one, then the Contemptor is better. And you're right, I mean, it has long range. In my experiences, in a lot of the games it did okay, but in some of the games that in 2 games I really needed to do damage. I think it was Drukhari and Grey Knights. I really need my Contemptor to roll hot. And like I'm relying so much so on this Contemptor to do like 5 mortal wounds, and it did like 1 or 2. And I just didn't like it. It was that... Because you guys remember, it takes me ages to paint stuff, so I spent ages painting that 3D printed Contemptor, and I had 2 of them with 2 double Volkite arms. And I just don't like it anymore. It just seemed like... In the game against Imperial Guard, the guy dropped in 5 Tempest Scions, or whatever the hell they were, and just tied up my Contemptor for like 2 turns, and I'm just locked in combat with like... whatever it was, 5 Imperial Guard. And I wasn't able to get to the objective that I needed to get to that would have... I think I did win that game, but at the same time, I just have a Contemptor stuck in combat against Guard, and it's just stupid. Same as, like, I guess this week, you know, my Land Raider was stuck in combat against, like, 4 Poxwalkers. And if I'd had if the Contemptor had a fist... then I would have been out of combat in the turn he charged me. He probably wouldn't even have charged me because the fist would have just killed all of them, or most of them, you know? And I guess that's why I still think vehicles are pretty bad, because it's, a cheap, shitty unit can lock a vehicle in combat and fuck, it's shooting up and it can't fall back. Okay. Right, so we've got the Terrax with Company Champion with the Blade of Triumph. Imperium Sword. Yep, so he's got the 3 damage, -3, strength +3 sword. We also have a bunch of Lightning Claw Vanguard veterans with Storm Shields and Lightning Claws. We have a Chapter Master on the bike, Infernal Pistol, and Armor Dominus Thunderhammer. We have the Terrax, a Chaplain in the Terrax with Mantra of Strength, Cantle with Hate. Of course, it makes sense to have Cantle with Hate in the Terrax. Infernal Pistol. We also have Sanguinary Priest in the Terrax. Chief Apothecary, Selfless Healer, Teeth of Terra. I feel like... And then he's got a Death Company in the Terrax. What is the capacity of the Terrax? Is it 12 or something? It must be. Yeah, so it's 12. So he's got a 5-man Death Company. Thunderhammer's bolt pistols. He's got the Sanguinary Priest. He's got the Chaplain. That's 7. He's got the 4 Company Veterans and the Company Champion. The missing thing here for me is Icon of the Angel, right? Like, you've got all these charges. You've got all these 7-inch charges. Why not give yourself the ability to re-roll them all? You could either run Icon of the Angel on the Priest or the Chaplain, or you could have the Company Champion run Martial Exemplar, right? So you're re-rolling all charges on core units? Or is it core and characters? Martial Exemplar is core and characters. Okay, so yeah, you could either... I'd probably give the Company Champion Martial Exemplar, but yeah, I mean, or Imperium Sword for 1 extra attack and just re-roll his own charge. It feels like it'd be much better if you just re-roll all the charges, right? No jump packs in the Terrax is correct, yes. Turkey Blasters, too late to submit a list. It is, I think the time for members Turkey is about 2 or 3 weeks. So I think I've got 2 members queued up for next Sunday, but I think there's space the week after that. Non-members, the queue is a bit longer right now. I mean, non-members, the queue is like 16 weeks at this point. Like, there's a long queue for non-members at the moment. We just obviously had the the data slate, and then before that we had chapter approved. So the amount of list submissions I've got have been crazy. James Fisher says you can't beat a good old Leviathan. I mean, Leviathan arguably got the biggest buff, right? Because models that had a 2+ save have got the most benefit out of this change of ignore AP -1, right? Because the math tells me, I don't fully understand exactly why, but if you save AP -2 on 3s compared to AP -2 on 4s, like, it sounds like it should just be 16% more, but it actually works out, like, when you filter it all the way down, it's actually like a 50% more survivability. 2 Leviathans beat 1. Yeah, I mean, the problem with the Leviathan is you'll have to pay for you have to pay the Martial Exemplar tax, but you have to pay that on the Relic Contemptors. I think the Terrax is good. I mean, the Terrax is cool because it's toughness 8, right? Is it here? Yeah, I mean, it's toughness 8. The enemy can't kill it before it arrives, really, and then it's right in their midst. And the Terrax is no joke in melee combat. D3 +3, -4, 2 times strength, so strength 14, and against vehicles, D3 +6. And I guess when you're charging as a Blood Angel, it's 4 attacks, potentially 5 attacks. If we get Savage Echoes up. The Terrax is very good, I guess. But yeah, you'd need some good need some good shooting in turn 1 potentially to punch a hole so you can deploy the Terrax. What we got as well in this list then. 2 squads of Incursors and a squad of Assault Intercessors. This is just what we see in every list. I guess this is a good way of balancing those super useful full boss units, but also keeping the points as cheap as you possibly can. We got Sanguinary Guard squad with 3 axes, 3 swords. We've got Vanguard Veteran squad with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields and Jump Packs this time. We got Land Speeder with a multi-melta. We got a squad of Eliminators with Instigator in the last few zones. We got a squad of Eradicators with Melta Rifles, and then we got the Terrax as well. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the points are dumped into this Terrax, right? So you've got like 70 plus 108 plus 235, so like that's 400 points, and then the Death Company as well. So about 550 points plus the Terrax, so about 730 or something points are dedicated to this Terrax. Icon of the Angel. Let me just check that. Do you know what? You're going to be better taking Icon of the Angel here, actually, because I'd probably lose Imperium Sword. I don't think you need to make this guy getting +1 attacks is probably worthless, right? Like, I mean, it's nice, but in the grand scheme of things, lose that and put Icon of the Angel on. Put Icon of the Angel on the Chaplain, right? And the reason to do this is because Martial Exemplar is going to let you reroll charges for characters and core units, whereas Icon of the Angel is going to let you reroll charges for Blood Angels units. So that's going to mean that you can reroll your Terrax's charge as well. I don't think you're going to get the +1 to charge from Canticle of Hate. I think that needs core characters, yeah. So the Terrax is still going to make a charge on an 8. But you'll at least get to re-roll it if you have Icon of the Angel. So that's actually better. Because you want the Terrax does so much damage in combat. You're going to want that to make its charge. So this way, you give up 1 attack on that guy. You want and just move and just take Icon of the Angel over on the Chaplain. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. Yeah, so there's like 750 points in the Terrax. And the Terrax Death Ball, this is probably about as good a Death Ball as you could possibly get out of the Terrax. The Priest potentially doesn't need to be in there because hold on a sec. The Priest's aura gets cast in the command phase. So the Priest can't make his aura happen, right? Like, he just can't do it because he's not on the board in the command phase. He's in the Terrax. So unless I'm missing something, this would be one of the times where, like, dare I say the name that is not unspoken, Corbulo may actually be a better choice here, right? Because Corbulo's Assault Doctrine aura is, as I said, it's just an aura within 6 inches of the model. He is he has friendly Blood Angels, so he'll be able to come in and charge. Yes, he doesn't have as many attacks, I guess, as the Teeth of Terra. You're going to lose like a few attacks. I think the Teeth of Terra gives you 6 on the regular Priest. Corbulo only has 4. So you're going to lose a couple of attacks here, and obviously he only got 1 damage chainsword, but you're going to give +1 attack to, I guess you're going to give +1 attack to all the core characters around him, which would be the 4-man Lightning Claw squad, so that's +4 attacks. The Death Company, that's +5 attacks. Your other characters in here, the Chaplain, that's +1 attack. The Company Champion, there's the +1 attack back that you've lost for giving up Imperium Sword. And then I guess he must give it to himself as well, yeah. I mean, the Red Grill's an aura, so he would get +1 attack. So yeah, you would give up like 2 or 3 attacks from the Teeth of Terra, but you'd gain quite a lot of attacks back because of the aura. and you'd gain an additional point of AP on all those other attacks as well, right? Because you're an Assault Doctor, and so you get one more point of AP. The only disadvantage, I guess, is you're not the Selfless Healer, so you can't revive for free, but you can still pay 1 CP to revive, because he is an apothecary, and he has that, and he does get to do the heal twice, right? Because he is the only difference is you'd save 1 CP because you wouldn't be giving him the Teeth of Terror. You'd actually save 2 CP because you wouldn't be giving him the Selfless Healer. You'd save 10 points. So the 2 CP you've saved would essentially let you res 2 guys, and that kind of averages it out, right? The Priestess is never for revives. Brother Corbulo is this meta. No, but I mean, it would help. Yeah, it would actually help. Steel Rain says, ironically, you need Corbulo. Yeah, Corbulo is actually going to be probably better here, because although you lose, like, I guess it depends on what you prefer, right? You either have the Teeth of Terra, which is going to give you 7 attacks, because it's going to be 3 from the Priest, 3 from the Teeth of Terra, and 1 from charging. So you're going to get 7 attacks at -2 damage. That's what the Teeth of Terra is. Or you're going to get like 5 attacks, -2 1 damage. Actually, you're going to get 6 attacks because his aura is going to affect himself. So you're going to get 1 less attack, but each attack is going to do 1 less damage. But then you're going to get 4 more in Lightning Claws. You're going to get 3 more with the Thunder Hammers. You're going to get 2 more with the Death Company Chainswords. You're going to get more on the Chaplain, and you're going to get more on the Company Champion as well. So I think at that point, it probably makes sense to actually run Corbulo over the Sanguinary Priest. I mean, if you don't own a Corbulo, just fucking say, hey, before the game, just say, hey, this Sanguinary Priest is my conversion of Corbulo. Because I think Corbulo can't actually be bought anymore. I think they stopped selling him. Yeah. Okay, so that's that. The main thing I think is going to be the positioning of your Terrax. The whole game is going to revolve on if you can get that Terrax into the right position. So, does an Eliminator squad and an Eradicator squad, and that's really all the shooting, maybe, I mean, the Land Speeder, I suppose. That's really all the fire support you have on the other side of the board. Now, my thought is that's probably not enough, right? Because that's like 6 Melter Rifles if you can totally obliterate, and a couple of Las Fusils. I feel like that's probably not enough. I mean, Sanguinary Guard Bolters can do something, but it's not going to be much. And I mean, you've got a Bite Captain whose Bolters can do something, but again, it's not much. So I guess the question really is, if you're going to run that much into the Terrax, and I think that's awesome, and I think that the Terrax and everything inside it could do a ton of work. You could roll over multiple units. You can obviously prevent Overwatch. The Terrax Drill itself could kill a bunch of stuff, but I guess against certain enemies, let's say Drukhari, for example, if he's got his whole army in Raiders, and let's say in turn 1 you shoot everything that you've got at the Raiders, and you can only blow up like 1 Raider or something, and you still got like 4 Raiders full of stuff, he can probably zone you pretty effectively. And even if you did get the Terrax in, and you managed to use the Terrax to blow up a Raider, for example, then he would just, the models as they explode from the Raider, he would put them further away than, if the Raider's 9 inches from you, and he has to deploy his squad within 3 when the Raider explodes, because the Terrax has like 5 melta guns on it, and it could probably blow up a Raider. He probably just does that to make it like in a 10 or 11 inch charge, so it's difficult for you to make the charge, even with Canticle of Hate and the rerolls and stuff like that. So, to me, this feels a bit like some of the Flesh Tearers lists, where the game will either go 2 ways, Dirty Wizard. It's either going to be, you're going to get a great spot to put that Terrax in, you can bring it in, everything can pile out, you can do a bunch of shooting, and then you make all your charges and you win the game, or the enemy is really smart, screens the entire backfield, there's nowhere good for you to put the Terrax down, and as such, you can't get the sort of alpha strike that you need from it. Sorry. Let me silence my watch. And then you don't win the game, right? And I think, in my opinion, this is why I don't run lists like this, because at that point you're not relying maybe on your skill as much as you're hoping that the enemy will make a mistake, because they need to leave you a space. And I've been at tournaments where, like, I run a servitor squad, like a 4-man servitor squad and I always reserved them, and I used them for both engage on all fronts and retrieve Octarius data, or whatever it was called before that. Can't even remember what it was called before Octarius data. Investigate, no. Someone will tell me what it was called before. What was it called? Because it's now Nakmund. It was Octarius. What was it called before that? I used it for the one that was before that, and I played against like certain lists where I could just never bring in a squad of servitors. And you know how small servitors are in the old bases? They're like 25 mils. They're fucking tiny. I could never even get the squad of servitors into their board quadrants. So, that's my opinion. My thought might be keep the Terrax and keep like half of what's in it. And I think that'd be cool. And I'm actually thinking of buying a Terrax in the next 3 to 6 months or something, because I do think a Terrax like this is strong. I just think that like 700 points into it, it's almost like if you were playing a hand of poker. You're going all in. You need that Terrax to work, because if it doesn't work, you can't win the game. And sometimes I feel like Flesh Tearers are in a similar situation. They load up Terraxes, they load up drop pods, and they need to have space, and if they can't make the space, then they can't win the game. And yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this. Swap the Vanguard Veteran Sergeant pistol shield for an Infernal pistol. Yeah, I agree with that. What Highland Phoenix says. What do you think if I start it on the board? I think it's risky as well. I mean, like, if you've got, you know, we talk about a single Dreadnought being a bullet magnet. If you start the Terrax on the board, it's 100% going to get shot by everything in your opponent's army. Because it's got no invulnerable save, even with the -1 improvements to the save, it's probably going to get too profiled. But there's certain armies that aren't going to be able to screen that very well, right? Storm Shields are dead, long live the Infernal Pistol. I don't think Storm Shields are dead, Steel Rain. I saw a Tau list today that's running 15 Crisis Suits, and each Crisis Suit, he's dropped all the indirect fire, and every Crisis Suit just has 2 plasma rifles on them, so they're -4, strength 8, -4, 3 damage. So every shot is a dead Marine, and they're all -4. So I think that what might happen over the next little while is people are going to realize Marines are good against high. People are going to think that Marines don't need invulnerable saves anymore, and you're going to see Tau lists like this where like they're just going to run a shitload of -4 firepower, and Tau can do it because they're still. Crisis Suits are still borderline undercosted, if you ask me. And if you have a squad of 5 Crisis Suits that's putting out 10 -4 3 damage shots, that's like that's killing a whole squad of Marines, even on the new rules. Even taking one off all the AP, that's just killing a whole squad of Marines. So I think in some situations, I think Vanguard Veterans with Storm Shields, or even Terminators with Storm Shields, they're still going to be valuable. People are just not going to realize that they're valuable for a little while, right? Because people are going to think like, oh, Marines are going to be great. We're not going to need invulnerable saves anymore. Well, the second Marine players start thinking about that, all the other factions are going to be like, right, Marines aren't running invulnerable saves, so we're just going to take all the weaponry that has as much high AP as it can, right? So I actually haven't dropped my Vanguard Veterans with Storm Shields out of my list. I'm running more Sanguinary Guard than I was running, and I'm running Terminators without Storm Shields this time round, but I think I want to get a few games under my belt So I actually do think Storm Shields are dead on characters, I guess, because characters have the Iron Halo. But Storm Shields on jump units, I think, may actually still have quite a bit of value. Depend on what the meta shift is, right? Okay, let me score up this list. We got the same sort of 8.5 for the troop choices. Anti-horde infantry. It's kind of weak on the shooting. You also didn't specify on the Terrax what guns you've got. Where the hell is the Terrax now? Do I still have it open? No. So probably, I guess it's coming with Stormbolters and the Heavy Flamers. I actually kind of like the Volkite Chargers, but I guess the Heavy Flamers are actually fine as well, yeah. I just like the Volkites, that they can do mortal wounds, but again, it comes down to how many shots is it? Are you fishing for mortal wounds? I guess because this has a heavy 5 melta, it doesn't feel so much like the. I think the Volkite on this is better than the Dreadnought we were talking about in the other list. Shooting Terminators are good. They don't really need the shields. Yeah, I mean, there's the question though, right? Like if you run into a Tau list that's running 10 crisis suits. Well, I mean, do you know, you could actually just do the math real quick, right? It would take literally 2 seconds, because the list that I saw had 5 of these crisis suits running 2 plasma blasters on each, right? So he hits on 4s, but he can marker light you as well. So ideally, probably he's hitting on 3s. So 10 times 0.6666. He's wounding on 2s because he's strength 8 into Terminators, or into any Marines. Doesn't just have to be Terminators. And then it's -4. So even if you're on a 2-up save, you're now on a 5-up because it's -3. So times that by 0.66. That's how many dead Marines it is. So one squad of crisis suits can kill 3.6 Terminators with just their plasma rifles. And then they've got other guns on there as well. Like I think they've got the Assault 3. The one that I saw had the Assault C3 Cyclonic Ion Blasters on there. So I mean, may as well just work that out into Terminators as well. So it would be the same this time as Assault 3. So it's 15 shots, hitting on 3s, wounding again on 2s. They're -2. So they would only be -1 onto Terminators, so we're saving on 3s this time, so times 0.3333. So one squad of these guys kills 3.6, and then you need 2 shots to kill, so that would be divided by 2. Yeah, so that plus... So on average... Sorry... Yeah. On average, you're talking about one squad of battle suits like this can actually kill a whole squad of Terminators on their 1-up save, or on their 2-up save with Ignore AP1 in a single turn. So if you have a squad of shooting Terminators that the crisis suits can see, and they're not in cover, they'll wipe the squad in a turn. So that's why I guess, like, you know, people are saying Storm Shields aren't needed anymore. Against certain things, they are. Yeah, I mean, the Tau Plasma is fucking stupidly powerful, Steel Rain. But you know, in my meta, I have 2 players that are playing Tau, and I'm sure they're going to take a shitload of Plasma now into Terminators, right? The big counter... I don't know if it is a big counter Highland Phoenix. I mean, they probably still kill 2 Centurions. It's a lot to lose. And those crisis suits are so damn mobile, and they can... We didn't even factor in that the Montka lets them reroll 1s if it's the closest enemy target, so they actually do more damage in that. And also their core, so they can get rerolls on 1s as well. You reserve the Terminators and charge the suits first. Yeah, okay, sure. I mean, I'm just trying to say that don't just write Storm Shields off, right? I really think that if we all drop Storm Shields, then everybody will come along and counter us. Alright, anti-horde infantry, I think it's pretty low in terms of firepower in this list. There is a little bit, let's say it's like 7.5, probably a little bit less than the last list, because the Terrax can kill horde stuff when it gets on the board, but it's not going to be there to begin with. 3 damage weapons in this list. We've got the two here. We've got 3 Eradicators, 2 Eliminators. Landspeeder makes it 6. We should swap this out for an Infernal Pistol, but we'll skip that for now. We get 3 more hammers, that gives us 9. We got the Chaplain, I guess, so that would give us 11. We get the Chapter Master and the Bike running 2. That would give us 13, and then the sword up here, the Blade of Triumph. So 14 3 damage weapons. So I like that. So I think that's a 9.5. That seems like a good number. Mobility wise, the mobility of the rest of the list is pretty decent, but I guess a lot of it is going to it's going to rely a lot on that Terrax to be in the right place and get the good Alpha Strike type deployment that it needs. Obviously, Overwatch can be cancelled a little bit here. We don't have Fight Last. We don't have Denies. We've got the units for actions. We've got the 3 damage weapons. We got the CP, I think. Where's CP? Oh, it'll be at the bottom, is it? Nope. Am I being blind? It's up here. 6 CP. So CP again is kind of borderline. You could fix that by bringing Corbulo, and then we do have some protection against mortals. I'd say this is more like a 7.5, just because I worry a lot about the deployment on the... I worry a lot about the deployment of the Terrax. How many plasma rifles can crisis suits take? They can take 3 per suit. They can take 3 weapons on each suit, and they get to pick between all the weapons that's on the profile page there. So the ones that I'm seeing at the moment, the ones that if this was before the patch, people were taking like an airburster frag, 1 plasma rifle, and 1 psionic. Now they've kind of dropped that airburster frag because it's not going to do that much damage because indirect fire got nerfed a lot, and they're maybe going to run either 2 cyclonics and a plasma, or 2 plasmas and a cyclonic. Both are pretty fucking nasty. My main point is it's viable to run Vanguard Veterans in different ways than Storm Shields, Lightning Claws now. Yeah, I mean, I think it's totally viable, Steel Rain. You could have a squad that's much more aggressive, I guess. Like, Lightning Claw Chainswords would be pretty cheap if you just wanted to do damage. Lightning Claw Chainswords into other factions would be good as well. You know, some people think about double Lightning Claws, but, I mean, Chainswords into other factions are probably okay. It won't work. It's just so simple for the opponent to block a deep strike behind their line. It's not just the 9-inch distance, it's also the size of your models. You have to fit the rest of the space. Yeah, I mean, that's the big problem with this list, I think. And Pana kind of highlights it. The Terrax is a great unit. I think it's great to have some key units inside it. You know, maybe like the Company Champion and 4 Lightning Claw Vanguard Vets is enough, or the Company Champion and the Death Company is enough, but I think you need to have enough to punch a hole to get the Terrax in, or to punch a hole so the opponent has to react to get the Terrax in. Otherwise, I don't know how well you make it work, right? you guys agree that the Tau list won't be good. No, but I think it's something to just be aware of. I think people will naturally gravitate towards more high AP stuff because they think that we won't have any storm shields, and I guess if people are going to build lists that gravitates towards high AP stuff and we still have some storm shields, then we might actually be in a great position. So I guess my point is, and I'm actually running a list tomorrow that doesn't have that many storm shields in it after saying all this, but I think it's something to just be aware of, because I am running a list tomorrow that's got the shooting Terminators, but after I made that list, because I made like 5 lists in the last few days trying to figure out what I think is best, I think after I made that list, I really thought to myself, do you know what, I think I am going to go back and just run my Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators, because they've been MVP in a bunch of games. They always seem to survive, and they're just a unit that soaks up enemy fire and does what I need them to do, which is usually just hold an objective or something like that. So, as much as I like the Chain Fist ones, and I'm going to run them tomorrow, I think that there still is value in those Storm Shields, that's all I'm saying. Okay, Bruin Biscuit says, I'm back with a new list, and I'll be using it in an upcoming mini tournament between 16 friends at the end of January. This shows you how long the queue is for for non-members. This list was submitted to be looked at in January. So, yeah, like I said, non-members queue is quite long at the moment. I've made some changes to the last list I submitted. Smash Captain to Dante, Infiltrators and Cursors. Vanguard now use Lightning Claws, an extra Sanguinary Guard, both using axes. 2 units of Death Company. I've kept Icon and the Priest. Last game I played, I failed a 6-inch charge twice one game, and having the Icon save me. My plan would be 2 Death Company is Forlong with the Death Company with the 3 hammer and the 2. I feel like splitting my hammers would give me options. Thank you for the advice from the previous list. Switching to Lightning Claws pretty much doubled my wound output for every fight during my last battle. Okay, cool. Do you have a different list right now, Bruin Biscuits? Because I'm happy to look at it if you can send it to me in the next couple of minutes in Discord. And yeah, I suppose I should say that if you do submit a list and you are in the queue for a while, you are welcome to update that list, and I'll just update the one that you've sent, right? Because there's no point in me reviewing a list if you're not playing it anymore. I have a squad of Hellblasters to build. Would be viable to swap and run them at all? I don't know about Hellblasters, man. I got 10 of them and I literally never run them. I think they're very expensive for what you get. What other units you got, Dirty Wizard? I don't see good... God's in the chat, or Goddle, and he's mentioning that hammers with less AP might be a problem, and I do think that as well. But the problem is we don't really have any other 3 damage weapons, do we, that we can take en masse? Unless you're going to take Centurions, but Centurions are such a niche pick. And Rezio, you always used to just say hammers are my meltas. How are you feeling now that hammers into Marines are just going to be essentially... Well, a regular Marine's going to save on a hammer on a 4-up, unless you're an Assault Doctor, and then it's a 5-up, right? Okay, so Brew says basically it's just Mephisto instead of Librarian Dreadnought, Infernal Pistols, the Death Company, and Chainswords, and a bunch of Bolt Receptors, but I'm interested to see how this list does. Alright, we can look at it. Chain Fists, yeah, I guess Chain Fists are -4, but they're not reliably 3, right? They are 3 against vehicles, and they're D3 against everything else. Red Rampage might be really helpful for Thunderhammers. Yeah, the only caveat is Red Rampage can't be played until turn 3, which is a bit annoying. Chain Fist or my Chain Fist, says Highland Phoenix. Yeah, I'm going to run Chain Fist tomorrow. I'm running my old metal Chain Fist Terminators. Still one-shots a Gravis Marine or a Terminator, says Dave. I mean, sure, yeah, still one-shots. But I suppose into Terminators, Thunderhammers will be saved on 3s now? Unless they're an Assault Doctrine? I mean, they'll be saved on. They'll be saved on 3s, is that right? Yeah. I'm sure I'm going to make mistakes with this. Dread Chainfists are 2d3. Well, yeah, sure, Dread Chainfists. I think when you just say Chainfists, I instantly think of the Terminator Chainfists. Okay, let's have a look at this list then. We've got Commander Dante, who is the Warlord. So we get 1 CP back. We got the Sanguinary Priest, who is a selfless healer, and he's got a jump pack. Icon of Angel on him as well, so the reroll charges. We get 2 squads of Incursors here, and this must be patrol, yeah. And then 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I guess Redemptor Dreadnoughts are probably quite big winners. In that, like, if you think about playing against Drukhari, I found Redemptors quite weak against Drukhari, and in some ways they still are against Raiders and stuff, because a lot of their AP is lost when you're shooting into Raiders. But, being able to save against the Dark Lances and the Blasters now without having to get an invulnerable save, that's pretty nice. We then have Librarian Dreadnought, which you said you'd swapped out for Mephiston. I mean, Mephiston at 140 points is maybe a little bit more interesting. He obviously does get to deny 2, which is kind of nice. The 5-man Death Company with hammers and bolt pistols, another 5-man Death Company with 2 hammers and 3 bolt pistols. 5-man Sanguinary Guard with axes, another 5-man Sanguinary Guard with axes. I think if you can split these now and get some swords in there, swords are going to help a lot against fighting other Marines. Because swords will still wound Marines on 2s because of strength 5 plus 1 to wound. And the -3 will help a lot against Marines, or -4 if we're in Assault Doctrine. So even if we're in Assault Doctrine, regular Marines will still save against Sanguinary Guard on 6s. On axes on 6s, on axes on 5s and swords on 6s. But if you do play Red Rampage, then you potentially remove their chance to save. Lightning Claws with Storm Shields, 2 squads. Okay. So 2 squads of Lightning Claws 5, 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard 5, the 2 Death Company 5s. I mean, that's kind of nice that you've got those 6 5s like that. You're going to struggle for CP here a little bit. You've got 8. That's okay, actually. Maybe you'll have 9 if you take Mephiston instead. 2 Redemptors, 2 Incursors. I actually kind of like this list. I guess Dante's helping you keep your CP reasonably high. MSU to the max this Highland Phoenix. I tried Relic Contemptors, but then went back to Redemptors. I ran into a lot of Orc players, and the Redemptors just seem better. Yeah, I mean, Redemptors are just weak into Drukhari. Just be aware of that. And I lost a game. I lost a game at a tournament because Redemptors can... It's a tough choice because, like you said, you're never going to get a unit that's good against everything. And I think Relic Contemptors are really good against Drukhari with the Volcons, but they suffer against heavier armor, and then Redemptors do better against heavier armor, but maybe suffer against the Drukhari Raiders. So yeah, you can't do everything. I have some heavy intercessors, aggressors, thunderfire cannons, servos, hellblasters, and a squad of terminators. I'd probably do the terminators dirty wizard. I think Terminators are probably going to be pretty decent now. I actually think Aggressors might be worth trying. I have 6 Aggressors. I think they might be worth trying now that they've got Toughness 5 and essentially a 2-up save again. Where's the Ancient with Wrath in this list? Yeah, I mean, you could argue that the Ancient would be good here because you've got 30 jump pack models. Yeah. I think this list kind of, you've got good characters, good amount of jump threat. If you've got Mephiston, you can get Unleash Rage on that Forlorn Fury Death Company, which I like as well. The 2 Redemptors backing up some fire support. The Priest giving the rerolls on the charges, and then the Redemptors to kind of bring up the backfield. It might be worth going 1 Redemptor, 1 Relic Contemptor. That might be what I would have done here. What would you think of running on the Aggressors? Unfortunately, I've got 6 Aggressors fully painted with bolters, but I think the Flamers are more... I think the Flamers are the better choice right now. I really do think the Flamers are the better choice, but just it keeps the models nice and cheap, the flamers. And the bolters, I mean, it's just strength 4, 0 AP, so they work. I think the bolter and aggressors are great for ultramarines, maybe, but not so much blood angels. They were great last edition where if you stood still, you got double shots. It was so good, but I guess that's gone now, right? You guys actually like bolter and aggressors? Okay. Are they not too expensive though? Are they not like 45 points a model? Bolter aggressors. I got 6 of them fully painted. I'd love to use them. I just thought they were too expensive. Yeah, because if you take the bolters, you have to add on the Flagstorm grenade launcher, which puts them up 5 points. The Flagstorm's assault d6, so it's 9 shots, because you get 3, 3, and then the average of this. So basically, you get 9 strength 4, 0 AP, 1 damage shots, which doesn't do that much killing, to be honest. This is why I don't run like auto bolt rifle inceptors. Not inceptors, incursors. No. It's getting late. Incursors, yeah? No, not incursors. Intercessors, sorry. Why the fuck does everything begin with I? I guess something you could do that... I also think that, like, if you look at the Aggressor model, they're literally designed to have these big fists, right? With the guns on the fists. Why the fuck have they got -1 to hit? It's not a power fist. It's like a specific... They even called it a different thing. It's like a Bolt Storm Gauntlet. It's designed for them to be like punching with guns on their fists. Why are they -1 to hit? I don't know. I think that's rubbish. They shouldn't be -1 to hit. You think Terminators are better, but Boltstorm Aggressors are good? Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of survivability, there's probably very little between them now, right? Because Terminators have the 2-up save, Aggressors have the 3-up save, but the extra point of toughness. So, I think there's probably very little between the two of them now. AP0 is effectively 1 AP into power armor, right? No. You got it around the wrong way, Dan. AP1, whatever AP you get hit with in Space Marine Army now, just remove 1 AP from it. So, if you're getting hit with AP1, it's AP0. If you're getting hit with AP2, it's AP1, and so on and so forth. D6 plus 6 flamer shots fees 18 plus 3d6 bolter shots. I mean, I guess when you put it like that, yes. The one thing that I like about the flamers is, well, the two things on the aggressors is the flamers are cheaper, and obviously the flamers for Overwatch, right? Like, you auto hit with the flamers on Overwatch. Remember, aggressors, these are assault, so you can move assault and still flame. Do you think a Ball Predator could make a comeback? I mean, I think it's better than it was. I think everything's better than it was. Could we maybe run an Ancient instead of Librarian Dread list and make the Vanguard Veteran a 10-man? Maybe have points for a Land Speeder? I mean, we could. We don't have a Whirlwind in this list. We don't have any way to shut down Overwatch. So that might be the one thing that's going to hurt this list. If you want to do the Flamer thing, just print Centurions, says Steel Rain. Yeah, I mean, at that point, the cost between them kind of probably leans... Oh, I don't know. See, I always think the Centurions are really expensive. 55 points, and what do they get? They just get one more wound and 1 more on their save. And the enemy can't make cover saves against the Centurions. But I mean, I don't know how that really helps, because the Flamers have no AP. I mean, the Centurion drills are much better, yeah. And the thing that you can maybe do is you can mastercraft the drills, right? The Centurions combo really nicely with Quake Bolts. I mean, it's, yeah, they do combo really nicely with Quake Bolts, I guess. So, not being core is killer. Not if you hit on 2s, it's not. And honestly, this squad of Centurions, because I've used this squad of Centurions, if you charge in the Assault Doctrine, you delete anything you charge anyway, right? Because, like, what do you get? 6 plus... You get 16 attacks. The fact that you hit on 3s is neither really here nor there, because 16 times 0.6666 means you make 10 hits. Your strength fucking 10 with +1 to wound, so you wound everything in the game on 2s. So on average, the enemy needs to take 9 minus 4 saves, 3 damage a shot. You know, so from the only thing the Centurions don't delete when they charge is like Mortarion. They kill any Dreadnought they charge pretty much. If you can combo them with Quake Bolts and make them hit on 2s, yeah, they kill everything. They kill everything except Mortarion, basically. Okay, Brew, let me think. You get 2 troop choices, so we're gonna say like a 7.5 here. Anti-infantry horde. You got 2 Redemptors. You get 10 Sanguinary Guard Bolters. What's on the Redemptors? They got the Storm Bolters, the Macros, the Onslaughts. Okay, so yeah, let's say 8. Are we going to give you 0.5? Yeah, I'll give you a 0.5 for that. Anti-vehicle monster. 3 damage weapons in this list is... We get 5 Thunderhammers. Let's assume this is Mephiston because you said you're changing out. 6. You got a couple in each of these, so that's 10. And then Dante's Infernal Pistol, 11. So you're not doing too badly on anti-monster vehicle. Mobility-wise, I mean, the Redemptors aren't mobile, but pretty much everything else is. So mobility is pretty high. I'd say like a 9. But then specialization, right? So we have no way to cancel Overwatch, no way to make the enemy fight last. We do have some denies. We do have some units for actions. We're right on the border of 3 damage weapons. We do have 8 CP and we do have some protection against mortals. So yeah, I mean, I actually kind of like this list a lot. I think I'm going to say 7.5. I think the big thing is like no way to deny Overwatch when you've got all the shit that needs to charge, and no way to make the enemy fight last, which again I think is important. And yeah, maybe, you know, a tiny bit lacking on the OBSEC front, but this is a good score as well, Brew. This isn't a bad list. I like Assault Centurions, but it's not because they're legitimately good. Reserve a squad of Flamer Centurions. I like Centurions as well. Are they really only 9 power level for a squad? Maybe. So it's 1 CP to reserve them. I mean, that's a mean thing to reserve if you can make the charge, I guess. I like to keep the Sergeant with Assault Launcher, but maybe invest in the Hurricane Bolter while I walk up the board. Yeah, I like this list a lot. I just don't like not having the Whirlwind. And sometimes the Whirlwind isn't needed, but it's one of those things that, like, when it is needed, it's really needed. It's the same as, like, Null Zone felt to me a few months ago, that was like probably like before Custodes' new codex came. And I mean, even to a certain extent, Null Zone is needed against, it feels like it's needed against some armies, but then other armies where it's needed against can counter it. So sometimes I feel like I'm just not a fan. So that's why I'm running Mephiston. And I'm going to continue to run Mephiston for a while. I think he's fun. Rizziel says he's not a fan of minimum size Death Company. I think it's okay. I think it's okay to not spend as many points to really put all those resources into the Death Company. I think that the Death Company on a smaller size squad with like 3 or 4 Thunderhammers can still do a lot of work. If you give them Chapter Master rerolls, if you get them Assault Doctor in, I think it's still decent. You could definitely run the Vanguard Veterans as a single squad and then potentially split them, because it would be combat squadding. That's something you could definitely do. And yeah, you could definitely swap out Commander Dante for the Chapter Master on the bike. I'm interested to try Dante with the changes now, but I still think the Chapter Master on the bike is going to trump him pretty significantly. I could do some math on that, actually. There's a lot of maths I want to do, actually. If there's any maths you guys want to see in the next few weeks, like comparing, I guess the main thing to do would be to be comparing survivability of units, right? So if there's any maths that you guys want to see in terms of like units being compared in terms of their survivability, then let me know, because I'm going to be doing a bunch of that. I want to do a bunch of like smaller videos that tackle that, because I think that's what people are maybe struggling to understand. And if there's any weapons that you guys want to see as well, like send me the weapons, like say like, oh, it's the Tau Plasma Blasters that are strength 8 -4, 2 damage or whatever. That's what I want to see, and I want to know who's more survivable. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. For now, I'm going to get a game against Tau tomorrow afternoon, so if any of you guys want to tune in and see us play Tau, that's going to happen at 2 p.m. UK time tomorrow. Because of the bank holiday and stuff, things are a bit screwed, and also I was playing Andrew tomorrow, but he has COVID, so I had to rechange. Sort of wasn't quite last minute. I knew about his COVID on like Thursday, but I couldn't get a new opponent. So I will share what I'm planning on running tomorrow. Let me see, because I've been back and forth on so many lists. So this is what I have for tomorrow. Don't know if it's strong yet, but it's something different, something I've not run in probably something like something that I haven't run. So I'm gonna run 9 CP, 2,000 points. I was gonna say maybe I'm gonna spend 1 more CP before the battle starts. We'll see. Captain on the bike, all the good shit that you know that normally comes with him. Mephiston. We've gone Quickening, Unleash Rage, and Wings. So I haven't run Quickening on Mephiston for ages. Gonna give that a whirl. Probably not gonna try and tangle with Meph till like turn 3 though. So although I have Quickening, I'm probably just gonna Smite and Unleash Rage for 2 turns. Assault Intercessors and Cursors. I think we saw that in just about every list tonight. That's super staple. We're gonna run the Relic Contemptor with a Cyclone, the Dreadnought melee weapon, and the Volkite. As mentioned, I think this is the best way to run the Dreadnought, I think. I'm going to run the Sanguinary Ancient with the Wrath of Baal, and I said in Rezio's list you need to have, what did I say, like 18 jump pack units to make this work, or 18 jump pack models to make this work. I have no idea how many I've got. I've got 2, 4, 6, I've got 7-man Sanguinary Guard, I've got a 6-man Sanguinary Guard, and I've got a 5-man Vanguard Veteran squad, so I actually have the exact same 18 models. So Wrath of Baal with 18 models. I was right on the edge, I feel like. No Chain Fist for the Dreadnought. I didn't have the points, Benno. I would have liked it. I've got the Terminator squad with 4 Chain Fists on the Teleport Homer. I think I can run the Assault Terminator squad with the Thunderhammers for 5 more points. So maybe I can find 5 more points. And like I said, I think it is important to still have Storm Shield. So I think I'm probably just going to give these guys one. I think I'm going to play these guys one time, and then I'm going to go back to my Storm Shield, Lightning Claw, Terminators. But I haven't played these guys in a little while, so We'll give them where's the Contemptuous Chambers? I don't have the points. I can't fit it in. But I think I don't know if I'm going to continue to run the Sanguinary Ancient, right? I really don't know. I guess we'll see how I feel about the 14-inch move on all these guys. We then have a Land Speeder, we then have Eradicators, and then we have the Whirlwind. It's a little bit shorter on fire support than I normally run as well, but I guess this gives me 3, 4, Infernal Pistol here 5, the 4 Chain Fists 9, Infernal Pistol here 10, the Relic Contemptor has the fist in the crack, so that's 2. And then Chief Librarian Mephiston has a sword, so that's 1, and the Chapter Master has a 2. So I got 15 3-damage weapons. I think now if I'm going up against Death Guard, I don't want less than 15 3-damage weapons on my list. Because I think otherwise I feel like I just don't beat Death Guard. You can't run a list multiple times and know without changing. Yeah, I mean, I know you can't, but there's a lot to test right now. So I already had another list made with a minimum size unit Death Company, and I was like so close to running that list with the Sanguinary Ancient, I think, in there. Not the Sanguinary Ancient, the Sanguinary Priest. And I haven't run the Priest in ages, but I think what I wanted to do first was see how, because I think, like I said, models with a 2-up save, I think, get the most benefit. Or models with a 2-up save without a shield are going to get the most benefit from the new changes. So here is, I guess, a shitload of models with a 2-up save that don't have shields. So let's see how they survive. Let's see how the Relic Contemptor survives a bit better with essentially a better save as well. And then I'll come back to another list in the near. I'm going to bounce about. I've put my name down for a GT. It apparently sold out in one fucking day. I didn't realise that because I said to Andrew, I was like, we have a GT that runs in the town that I'm in, and that was the one that I came essentially second in last year, and it sold out in one day. I said to Andrew, I was like, I didn't get a ticket because I'm an idiot, and basically, like, I've got 2 kids. I said to Andrew, I can't even organise to get my kids out of the house before like 10 o'clock. How the fuck am I going to remember one day to buy a ticket for this GT? So I'm on the waiting list, and they said that somebody will always fall out. So I've got till November before my GT. Probably Marines will get nerfed before I get to another GT. So it's fine. I'm going to try a bunch of things. Gitley says, honestly, the 5-hammer Death Company I run is so legit. It's such a huge threat early game that opponents really have to change their deployment or those buggers are not going to run riot. Yeah, so I was thinking that as well, Gitley. I was thinking maybe, because I think the list that I made, I know it all says like swords on the Sanguinary Guard, but it's not. It's WYSIWYG. It was just like, here's 6 models. I think it was 3 axes, 3 swords in both squads. So I think I maybe need to try and make a couple more Death Company models with Thunderhammers. And I think I also want to try and make like some really cheap Vanguard veteran models. Like, can Vanguard veterans run double chainsword or no? They'd have to run, like, what's the cheapest you can make Vanguard veterans? Can you? I know you can. I'm pretty sure you can do Lightning Claw chainsword, right? So every model has a bolt pistol and a chainsword. Any number of model can have their bolt pistol replaced with a chainsword, right? So you can run double chainsword Vanguard veterans with a jump pack for 22 points per model. That would give them 4 attacks base, 5 on the charge, 6 with Savage Echoes. Just at 22 points per model base. And yeah, chainswords aren't going to do tons of damage into other Marines, but they will be useful. And they are also good to take the wounds on. You know, if you're getting hit by the enemy and you're just saving on a 22-point double chainsword model, that's pretty cheap. So I don't own any Vanguard veterans with double chainswords. And I only started I used to run Death Company when they used to take bolters on chainswords. So a bunch of my Death Company are painted with bolters and chainswords. Obviously, they changed it so they can't do that anymore. They can only take bolt pistols and chainswords. But I feel like I need to get more Thunderhammer Death Company as well. I guess we'll see. I do like the idea of the 5-man hammer unit. I mean, that 5-man hammer unit combined with a Whirlwind. And that's what I don't get, Gitley. Like, how do you... nice, Q. Thank you so much for following. How do you make that 5-man hammer unit amazing when the enemy could just overwatch them and kill them, right? A 10-man Vanguard veteran squad can hammer a Wrath better than 5. Yeah, I mean... Hammer of Wrath is pretty unreliable, is it not? I mean, I guess it's not unreliable, but there's a lot of units, there's a lot of enemies you can't use it against, right? Always magnetize your stuff, says Regiso. Yeah, I mean, if you have the time and magnets are your greatest friend, that's for sure. I still have this Sanguinary. I've got this one here that I put the magnets onto the arms and stuff that I plan to make a painting video for. I'm not there yet. No magnets, just buy more models, says Steve West. I mean, that works too. I'm considering swapping out 5 shields for the extra claw. I wonder if it was worth swapping out 5 shields for the chainswords just to see if you could be super point efficient. I made it right for the Vanguard veteran chat, says Mephisto. Did I miss a bit where you talked about the new meta for them with chainsword and lightning claws? Not really. We haven't really figured it out yet. I'm running yeah. I think the new meta that we're all excited about, I think we just have to remember that if the enemy are going to start taking a lot of high AP stuff to deal with Marines, that could be a problem. So I guess if we're aware of that, then it might be okay. It's a tough one. Alright, I am going to call it here. We are going to be back tomorrow for our live game against Tau. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys there. It is going to be live in the afternoon, so and I guess that will be morning-ish American time. So I'm definitely looking forward to trying out some of the new stuff. As I said, my list is I'm probably going to play a different list every week for the next few weeks until I figure out what... Although I play different lists, I'll play the same units multiple times and try and get a feel for like how much more survivable things are and what's going to be best going forward. And one of the lists I might even just run the exact same list that I ran that almost won the GT, right? Because, well, I mean, that list will just be 10-15% stronger than it was in terms of survivability. So I might run that as well. But yeah, there's so much to dive into right now. But I think the main thing is hope, right? Because I'll tell you that I was so bummed out. If you go back like 2 months, where like I was deploying in my game against Tau, just like spending half an hour on the deployment, being like, this is fucking stupid. Anywhere I deploy, I'm just going to get indirect fired off the board. So that's so good that we don't have to worry about that. I tweaked my list for next week and I'll reply in the community post, said Highland Phoenix. Yeah, okay, no problem, Highland. I will update it. And Sanguinary from Deep Strike with Angel Sacrifice, he's durable now, says Chris. Do you know what? We haven't seen the Sanguinary. I haven't run him as tall this edition. 150 points. I mean, I don't know if he's durable. He's more durable. He's more durable. I still don't think I like him. You have to hit him with AP3 to put him on a 4-up. I mean, if you're fighting into like a really nasty melee unit, they're maybe was going to say, what, like, Incubi, the Incubi always fucking kill me, right? Like, anytime I play against Dark Eldar, it's like Incubi just murder my sang. They pretty much murder Marines in general, don't they? So what are Incubi? Yeah, their single blades are -3. So like into the Sanguinary, like he actually gets no more survivability, right? Yeah. So in some cases things are going to be more survivable, but in other cases there's just going to be no change. I fucking hate Incubi. Every time I play against Dark Eldar players that have Incubi as well, they always have like 3 colours on these things. Like, they barely put any effort into them. It's like, this whole body will be like green, they'll have a white head, and they'll just have a silver sword. That's it. That's all the effort they seem to put in. I'm just getting murdered by them. God, I hate Incubi. And they get fight last as well, if they... whatever it's called. And they get to move, advance, and charge as well. And they get an invulnerable save. Ugh, I hate them. 18 points a model. Look at the number of attacks they get. Ugh. Okay. Is the Sanguinary -1 to hit in melee? That shows how little I've run him. I guess he's wearing a death mask, is he? Okay. -1 to hit. But I mean, like I said, against Incubi he's no more survivable, so take that, I guess, with a grain of salt. Alright. You're very welcome for the list review, Dirty Wizard. And as always, if you guys have lists, you know how to submit them. You just go over to the community tab. During tomorrow's live stream, please remember that if you are on YouTube and you click on the super chat button, if you are watching right now, let me go into my own stream for right now. Inception. The super chat button here, where is it? Show your support. When you click that as a member, you'll be able to do a free super chat every month. You guys get that for free for being channel members. You guys are super appreciated. So please, last week during the live battle, sometimes it's very difficult to read the chat in a live battle. If you're I'm trying to win the game and I'm up against the wall, like I'm losing the game essentially. I find it very difficult to win the chat. If I'm playing someone that's maybe not as competitive as me or not as skilled as me, like Kev, for example, who plays really slow, it's easy for me to read the chat. If I'm playing a high-end intense game, I find it very difficult. So, but if you do a super chat like that and it pop up on the screen, it'll play music, we'll definitely notice it, and we'll make sure you get your questions asked. So please reserve your free super chats for that. G Shelley says, what would it need to be for Blood Angels to be tournament competitive? I actually don't know. I mean, Blood Angels are winning tournaments. I've got a video on a tournament winning list that's probably going to come out this week. These changes on the balance slate help a ton. And yeah, I mean, leave it with me. I mean, if these changes are as useful as I think they might be, then maybe we actually see Blood Angels back as a competitive force. Who knows? I guess we'll find out in the next few months. I'm going to play my first game tomorrow. I hope to catch some of you guys tomorrow. Thanks again for watching the stream. If you did enjoy tonight's stream, please hit that like button. And I will catch you guys tomorrow afternoon. As I said, if there's any suggestions or questions or math hammer that you guys need in the next few weeks, hit me up and I'll get to it. Like I said, I'd probably plan to make a lot of short videos about comparing survivability. I think that would be pretty cool and useful. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night. By the blood are we made strong. Have a great weekend or Easter if you do celebrate that. Peace.